Welcome to Open Vibes with your host, Denmika Eugene. Good evening. Good evening. I am here with my brother, my friend, Mr. Keith L. Brown. He's going to bring a phenomenal interview tonight. I'm so excited. I'm elated, you guys. So let's welcome Mr. Keith Brown.
Oh, thank you so very much. And to all of the purposeful people listening in to Open Vibes, I am here with Denmika, and the D is for dutiful, the E is for empowered, the N is for nurturing, the M is for mobilizing, the I is for innovative, the C is for creative, and the A is for an advocate who's anointed and ascending. So I'm just delighted, ignited, and excited to be here on some Open Vibes to open up some minds on these open vibes.
Praise God. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have you. We are going to jump right into this. Tell us who you are and tell us about your brand.
Yes, Keith L. Brown, known nationally and internationally as Mr. I'm Possible. I believe it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. So through my coaching and training and speaking, I take individuals from impossible to it's possible, and finally, I'm possible. At the end of the day, many people are running around society believing it's impossible. They were raised to believe their goals and dreams are impossible. And I want to change the paradigm. I go in and I change the paradigm in school districts, colleges and universities, government agencies, corporate America, the entertainment industry. And I go in with a message that lets them know, if you look at the word impossible, that it's very minute. It's a dream killer. And so I let them know we go from impossible to it's possible. But let's talk about just something very little that can transform your audience's lives on tonight. If we take an apostrophe and we put the apostrophe between the I and the M, a little thing, then impossible becomes what? I'm possible. And so it's the little things that count in your life that can take you from impossible to I'm possible. A little more prayer. All right. A little more love, a little more hope, a little more hanging around the right people. And so I am known nationally and internationally as Mr. I'm Possible. I have a lovely wife, Dr. Wakia Brown. We call her Nikki. She is an elementary school principal doing a great job, a child and youth advocate. We have one sensational son, Keon, a graduate, honors graduate of an HBCU, the Savannah State University. He's now a director of policy in the Georgia Senate. And we have thousands of surrogate children and youth who we empower, love, and nurture across the country. So I'm a speaker, an author, a trainer, and a director of external affairs in the Georgia Senate. But most of all, I'm an humble servant. I'm a child of God who was labeled special ed, at risk, and a potential menace to society. But I was favored to learn that I was not special ed, but I was special. I was not at risk, but I would take risks. And I was never a menace to society, but I would dwell amongst men and women who ace society, just like Denmika Eugene.
Wow. Excellent. I mean, that is a wonderful intro. I mean, I couldn't have did that better. So when did God give you the I'm possible? When did that hit you? Tell me about that.
Absolutely. I work with a lot of young people, and I listen and respect the voice of the young people, the children and young people, because quite often as adults, we wear masks. And I'm not just talking about the mask that we wear to protect us during COVID-19, but a lot of times we are politically correct or we wear masks. But children and young people are real. And many times they come with a real perspective, and you have to be ready for their honesty and their authenticity. And so they gave me the title Motivator of the Millennium years ago. And then the young people started calling me Mr. I'm Possible, because I would always talk about it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. And they say, you Mr. I'm Possible. So I basically then adopted that name that was bestowed upon me by young people. And I have to give a shout out to the young people in the Sickle Cell Foundation of Georgia, as I'm an advocate for sickle cell anemia, having lost a brother to sickle cell anemia as well. And so that movement is a global movement, and it's so important because, as I said earlier, there are so many individuals who have not been able to reach their goals and their dreams because they've convinced themselves that not only is their dream or goal impossible, but they're impossible. And so that I'm possible message is more than just a message. It's a movement that I'm taking nationally and globally. I've done a book, several books called Not Impossible, I'm Possible, and I'm Possible curriculum that's studied in school districts across the world. So I'm all about living in the I'm possibilities and not the impossibilities.
I absolutely love it. That is phenomenal. So do you believe that as a society, as a whole, that in a way we've been subtly subdued? And tell me, what does this statement mean to you? Because you mentioned the children, you mentioned that, you know, they're to be seen. What does this statement mean to you? And how did you overcome this? Children are to be seen and not heard.
Wow. That's one of those traditional statements I heard growing up. In the African American community, if I'm going to be quite transparent and honest, there were many times there were adults who would say children are to be seen and not heard. Not only that, even when adults were correcting us when I was growing up, we could not look them in the eye. They would say things like, "Don't look me in the eye." Okay. And absolutely. I believe that made it even harder for us to raise our children in this day, because we don't want our children with their heads down. We teach our children now to, when you're talking to people, look them in the eye, give them a firm handshake. So when they said children are to be seen and not heard, I know that they meant back then that they didn't want children to be disrespectful or too loud, or you have to stay in a child's place. There were times even in the family, we couldn't even eat at the adult table. We couldn't even eat at the adult table. There was a children's table. There was an adult table. Now, let me say this. It did create an atmosphere of respect in me and many others, an atmosphere of humility. But I also believe there should have been some type of balance where children were taught you are to be seen and not heard in a negative manner. We don't want you to be disrespectful. We don't want you to embarrass the family or the honor of the family. And too often, many children were silenced because they were to be seen and not heard. And so when they went to school and they didn't answer questions or they were silent, they were labeled special ed. They were labeled at risk. They were labeled as slow. And so what we failed to do was have the balance in me. Because so the balance is this: don't be disrespectful. When I'm talking, you listen. But let me give you this as I change the paradigm. All of my son's life, I've apologized to him when I was wrong. I was apologetic because the Bible taught me to, you understand, to raise him up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So as his father, his example, I got away from don't do as I do as I say do, because you know what I learned early on? I learned that out of fear, he would do as I say do, but out of my example, he would do as I do. And so I had to change the paradigm. And when you know better, you do better. So I give it up to those elders who did the best that they could. But now that I know better, as a parent, I've been able to do better. So I want my son to be seen. I want my son to be heard. I want them to listen to him. But I want the messages that are coming out of his mouth to be positive ones that uplift the community and not minimize the community.
Definitely. I assume, and maybe I'm wrong, you were like me in school where I held my fair share of encyclopedias.
Yes. We didn't have Google, right?
So I was holding them. And every time I said something to anybody in the class, Barbara put another encyclopedia on them. Like, so my stack kept getting.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Silence me. But now that we know that those children are not problematic, they need to be cultivated.
Oh, yes.
So yes. How did you come out of that mindset that, okay, I'm not a problem, I'm a solution.
That's powerful. I love that. I remember my fifth grade teacher. Her name was Miss Finkelstein. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York.
Okay.
I was born in Savannah, Georgia, raised in Queens, New York. Come from a blended family, two mothers, two fathers, brothers and sisters on both sides, right? Blended family. Okay. And so with that dynamic, there I am at PS 52, and I was very talkative. I mean, I talked and I still talk. I remember one of my teachers saying, Keith L. Brown, you talk too much. Now I get paid to talk. And so Miss Finkelstein, here she is, this white woman with this little black boy. And I was in PS 52. And every morning as the children would come off the bus, because my mother taught at the school as well. So I'm in the hall and she would say, Keith, do your thing. And I thought I was the black Bob Barker. And they would come into the school and I would be like, come on down. And she allowed me to speak. She allowed me to speak and she cultivated my gifts, Miss Finkelstein. And I'm so thankful for her. I'm thankful for my elementary school teachers who did that, my middle school and high school teachers. I mean, I was in special ed in school, but I was still winning speak out contests. I remember I won a citywide speak out contest in special ed. I was voted most likely to succeed in my high school class, male most likely to succeed in special ed, but it was because of the power of speaking. And so I implore those parents out there that dig deep for the gifts inside of your children. If he is beating on the tables, okay, he might become a world-class drummer one day. If she is dancing around the house, she might be the next great ballerina or a gymnast. So we have to cultivate, as you said, our children's gifts and not always sitting them down or making them feel like they're problem children because we have an agenda of our own or because we want to watch television or we want to be gossiping on the phone. So y'all sit down and be quiet. You right? You understand? Yeah, sit down and be quiet. We must dig deep because our children have powerful gifts on the inside. And so that is so very important. Absolutely.
I'll tell the truth. That is magnificent. I absolutely love it. And I know your son is like, this my dad. How proud is he of who you are?
Listen, it almost brings me to tears because I traveled a lot while he was growing up. And my wife held it down. She really did. She held it down.
Happy belated Mother's Day. Yeah.
You know, I will. And as one, when I came home, though, I was the dad. I was that PTA dad. I made certain that I was that PTA dad. My wife, to this day, when my son was in middle school, I stopped allowing her, and not from a negative standpoint, but from a positive standpoint. I didn't want her shopping for him anymore. I wanted to do all of his shopping. Okay. I wanted to be that dad. I wanted to show up to all of his events. I wanted to be that dad. And that led me to a powerful platform we have now called Fathers Not Father, FATHERS, not FARTHER, where I mobilize and train and coach fathers to continue to be involved and to be committed. And research shows that Black fathers are more involved in the lives of their children, their daily lives, than any other race of men on the planet. So I salute Black fathers. Black fathers matter. But I had to do that. And for those fathers who are not involved, I had to make certain, listen, you have to be involved. You might divorce their mother, but you don't ever divorce your children. You might have an issue with the mother, but not the children. And so I want my son to be proud of my example. And he tells me this because there's something I've been doing ever since he was a child. Every 3 months, I ask him, what type of father have I been over the course of the last 3 months? And I give him permission to be honest and transparent. And he's 25 now, but we've been doing that since he was a child. And so I pray and thank God that he is proud of me. And I'm going to share this because I'm very transparent. My son and I have sat on the same couch. We've sat on the same couch at home watching his Chicago Bears against my New York Giants. And we've sat on the couch of our therapist as we both were in therapy, right? Getting the help that we needed. So yes, we pray. Yes, we have faith, but then we go and we get those outside resources, those clinical professionals, because we understood early on. I wanted my son to understand that Black mental health matters. I wanted him to understand that when we got outside help, it did not make you crazy. You're not insane. There's no problem. So many times in the Black family, as this is National Mental Health Awareness Month, in the Black family, we have to stop making mental health taboo. Do you understand? We have to get our children and youth the help that they need. So I sat on the same couch with my son. I supported him. He cried on my shoulder. I cried on his, but it's made him a better person, a better young man. It's made me a better man and a better father.
I love it. I love the, I'm going to call it the end of course surveys that you give him every 3 months. I love that. I think that's phenomenal. Or as in the military, we call it after action reports. So,
wow.
Yeah. So AARs or end of course surveys.
Yes.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about the program that you created for the fathers. Is it, how does that go?
It's a mentorship program, Fathers Not Father. Once again, FATHERS, not FARTHER. And it started with my work with fathers in Head Start. Okay. Because many times those are our younger fathers. And most times they are our most vulnerable fathers. Okay. In terms of socioeconomics. All right. Just in terms of societal perceptions. And these are many times young men who don't know how to be a father, but they're willing to learn, because many times they didn't grow up with their own fathers, but they're willing to learn. And so we understand that they are the underserved many times in society as well. And so that was just a movement. And we have these principles. I will reflect my children. I will protect my children. I will respect my children. I won't neglect my children. So through a series of workshops and trainings and our Fathers Not Father apparel, we just go out in the community. We go in. A lot of our work is done in school districts. And it's so ironic because I remember there was a very pivotal moment when I saw a father at an elementary school, and he had about 4 children, and they were all hanging off of him. And I can tell that he was just emotionally spent, like, go to your mama, go to your mama. And I remember going up to him, and I remember saying to him, you are a great father. And he looked me in the eye, and he was a bit baffled, and he said, how do you know? I said, because anytime I see children hanging off of a man, a father, like they were hanging off of you, you must be a great father. And that young man, he lit up. He had to be in his early to mid 20s but he lit up like a Christmas tree. And that's what we want to happen. That's the reaction we want to happen. We want those fathers to light up for the good things that they're doing, and we want to help them improve in the areas that they need improvement upon. And so that Fathers Not Father movement, it is not just a national movement, it is a global movement, because we understand that men play a pivotal role in the lives of their children.
Wow. I could only imagine you changed his entire life just with that one statement. Just one person seeing you and recognizing your good work. Sometimes it just makes all the difference. Not that sometimes it's hard when you don't, we can't always see ourselves.
Say that.
I could only imagine you changed his whole life. If you're anything like me, and you're probably times 10 of what I am. You wake up in the middle of the night with ideas and, visions, and we're going to manifest this and create this and make this come to life. I absolutely love it. I can sense it. I feel it. It's so much more. It's like a tree, and you have good fruit.
Yes.
The fruit is growing, is blossoming. I'm loving it. I am loving it.
Oh, yes. I believe that God gives us our greatest ideas in the quiet, in the silence. So when the earth is quiet, when it's quiet in the home, when there's peace and serenity, he gives us these innovative ideas. And I just say this, we can get the motivation. We can get the motivation from God, the inspiration, the transformation, the revelation, and the elevation. But I want your listeners to know we must have the implementation. So that means when God gives you the gift, you have to unwrap it. When God gives you the idea, you have to implement it. When he gives you the goal and the dream and the vision, don't you sit on that thing. You have to implement it. It's called implementation. Implementation leads to elevation. You cannot have elevation without that implementation. So I'm a firm believer that I have to be in an atmosphere of peace.
Yes.
Peace, not Piece. I have to be in an atmosphere of peace so that when he gives me these ideas, I understand, like I know you understand, he gives us these ideas to water the earth, not just our own backyard. And so, you know, we walk around every day with our water hose, just watering the earth. That's what we're doing. We are watering the earth. Yes. Amen.
So do you believe leadership is complicated?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's very complicated. I created a term called "have the nerve to serve." Okay, let your listeners, okay, your viewers tonight, let them hashtag that. Have the nerve to serve. And the reason I created that is, as a servant leader, it takes nerve to serve, because quite often those who we serve will not appreciate our service. Those who we serve will not implement all of that which we give them. And so leadership can be quite complicated just from a standpoint of, you have to understand, many times you will not be appreciated. Many times those you're attempting to help the most will be the very ones that might be against your platform. So what we must do is, I encourage you, Denmika, and all of your viewers, when you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed and you thank God for waking you up, when you stand to your feet, start clapping. And people say, why should I do that? I said, you better start clapping, because it might be the only standing ovation you receive all day. Let me tell you, okay, it might be the only standing ovation you receive all day. So leadership is complicated, because as servant leaders, we've been called to serve. To serve those who might not appreciate us, to serve those who might be our adversaries, but we were still called to serve. And the other thing about leadership being complicated is, many times we are called to positions we didn't ask for. We are called to positions that we didn't ask for. Just imagine if we were able to go to God and give him a list of all the leadership positions we wanted to be placed in. I guarantee you that 99% of those would be positions where we're comfortable, would be positions where we always had peace. But no, he calls us to lead in the valley, right? He calls us to lead in places that are unpleasant. He calls us to lead people who are unpleasant. And so that's a part of leadership. That's a part of leadership, but it is complicated. It is very complicated. Absolutely.
Everyone is called to lead.
Well, I believe everyone is called to lead, but let me say this: there are individuals who are in the wrong leadership positions. So some people have been called, and then some have been hearing voices. Do you understand? See, everybody who says, it's like people say, I've been called to preach. I say, you've been hearing voices, right? Okay, you weren't called to do this. So I believe everyone has been called to lead, but you have to be an effective leader in the right position. Do you understand? In the right, and you being a veteran, right? Being a veteran, and thank you for your service. You being a veteran, you understand that not everyone who has the rank deserves the rank.
I understand it all too.
Right. And so there are those who have titles, but they don't necessarily deserve the title. And that's why it's complicated. That's why it's complicated, because you have followers who know this individual is not a genuine leader, who knows that this individual is not one who should be followed. And still, because of a protocol, you still have to follow this person. And so when they say, Mr. Impossible, what do I do then? I say, respect the position, not necessarily the person who's in it.
That's exactly it. So I have two more questions on leadership, because you know that's a very that topic is an arena that I love to discuss, because leadership, I think, is not discussed enough.
Yes,
it's not shared enough. It's not taught enough. The other question with leadership is, do you believe people are called to you as a leader, or are they called to your gift as a leader?
Wow. I pray they're called to my gift. Amen. You know, what I do believe when I'm speaking or when I'm leading, I do know the reality is a lot of times people will leave the arena talking about me, but I hope that they're thinking about themselves.
Yes. They're
That they can be
empowered.
talking, that they can be talking about me because I delivered the message, or right, but they're thinking about themselves. And so when they, oh my God, Mr. Impossible touched my life. Now I'm going to go do what I was called to do.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hoping, that they've been drawn to my gift and not necessarily me, because my gift is going to live long after I'm gone. And it is he who gave me the gift.
Yes.
Okay. It is that they should be drawn to he who gave me the gift. For if it's just me, then I'm operating in a stance of ego, and ego stands for edging God out. And I've been there. I've been arrogant enough to believe that my faith should be put in man and not God. I've been arrogant and naive enough to believe that man was going to promote me and not God. But when God jumps in and he gives you a reminder of who daddy is, and he gives you a reminder of who created you, and then your mind shifts and things happen that causes a shift in your life. And so I will say, being transparent, that I've been arrogant before. Okay. I've been disobedient before. I tell people that, just like everyone else, I have skeletons in my closet, but I thank God that I'm not all that I should be, but I'm not what I used to be. And I'm growing each and every day. And so, I'm growing because you understand, you understand that, I've been around, I'm old school. All right. I've been around, but I am humble enough to understand that the word of God lets me know that I'm forgiven, and that I'm still one of his favorites, and I'm still favored, but I have what I call flawed and favored. I am flawed and favored. So you know what people will say, don't you mean flawed but favored? No, I'm flawed and favored because they go hand in hand. So that's my humility. I'm flawed and favored. Flawed means I've made mistakes. I continue to make mistakes, but favored enough that he gives me another opportunity every day to get it right and to help those go from impossible to I'm possible.
Wow. I'm so grateful for the opportunities. I tell you, because I tell people I'm perfectly flawed. I am perfectly flawed. I am. And I know it, and I'm just grateful to God for the grace that he extends and the love that he extends, and giving us that opportunity to get it right and renewing our mind.
Yes.
That's right. I love the standing ovation. I love that. I'm going to have to use that. So I'll give you I'll give you your credit a couple of times, but then I'm
and then it's yours.
So how do you choose your team? And most of all, your inner circle?
That's critical because, my team members travel with me. My team members, they enhance my gift, whether it be through videography or the technical side, or, my director of operations who handles a lot of my bookings and things of that nature. But basically, one of the first qualities you have to have is enthusiasm. You have to have enthusiasm to be on my team. And when I say that, I'm not talking about that you have to be, loud like Keith L. Brown or have all of this energy, but you have to have a passion for what you were called to do. You have to have a passion for that position on this team. Next thing, you just got to be positive. You have to be positive. I don't want any negative people around me, okay? Because that will then usurp my energy and my effectiveness. So you definitely have to be a positive person, an upbeat person. You don't have to do a lot of talking, but you have to know how to communicate effectively, all right, to be on the team. And you have to have integrity. I have to see that you operate in a spirit of integrity. And those things are so very important. They're so very important. And so when you're choosing your team, I always tell people it's so essential, because there are those individuals who you can collaborate with, and then there's those individuals who you will partner with. And I look at my team members as partners. So it's very important that you know the difference between those who you're collaborating with versus those who you're partnering with. I say this: when you partner with team members, make certain that they have just as much to lose as you do.
Yes.
It's important. Okay, if you want to have home ownership and they're just satisfied with an apartment for the rest of their lives, that's not somebody you really want to partner with. Because see, if you get foreclosed on, that can impact your credit score. That can impact your life. Okay, but they can go from apartment to apartment and apartment, and so I'm just talking about an example now. I'm not, because I know we're all on different socioeconomic levels, but what I'm saying is that they have just as much to lose as you do. So I love to have team members who have families. All right, just like I have a family. And then you know what? I also love to give our millennials an opportunity. Yes, and my son is in that, Generation Z, I guess, millennial type. My videographer, she's in the same stratosphere, but they're professional. They're professional, and I honor that. And I let them know many times our millennials, they have great ideas, but sometimes they have a poor work ethic, right? But they have great ideas, great ideas. And so you have to have a strong work ethic to be on my team, because I grind hard, I go hard. And so those are very important. And so I've changed team members through the years, and I let individuals know I've never fired anyone. It was just your season has come to an end. Or your gift would be better suited with someone else. Okay. And so that's so very important. So yeah, your team is everything, because you can't do it by yourself. And when I stand up, this is a true story. When I stand up before an audience, I edify my team first. I didn't say deify, because to deify means to anoint them and to put them on God's level. No, I edify them, meaning I build them up, because I do understand the person who creates my videos and I get booked. She put those videos out there. Those made me look great, but she did that work. My technical director and DJ, he brings the music to hype the atmosphere. So he's very important. My director of operations, she pitches me across the world. So she's very important. My publicist, I have the top publicist on the planet, Adrian Alexander Allen, the IPY agency. Listen,
I got a great one too. So I don't know. They might be competing for that.
Hey, look, they're 1 and 1A. How about that? Right. So they're both top notch, right? And so I'm so thankful for my publicist and the rooms that she works to get me in as well. And so our teams are so very important. But I just want to say this: you can't do it alone. No. You can't do it by yourself. So that's why you'll never hear me say I was self-made.
Praise
God. We hear that, right? We hear that all the time. I'm self-made.
It kind of is almost like hearing nails on a chalkboard. It makes me cringe. Like,
yes.
I'm a firm believer, and that's why I love talking about the gifts, because the gifts are interlinked and we're helpers one to another.
Absolutely.
We have to be. So let's talk about talk is expensive.
Oh, yes. You know what time it is. Shameful plug, right? Shameful plug. This is it right here. Yes, this is it. Talk is expensive. Communicating effectively to expand your impact, your influence, and your income. Okay. I wrote that book based on a couple of statements. One of the statements was talk is cheap. The other statement was actions speak louder than words. Yes. Talk is not cheap. Talk is expensive. On January the 6th, 2020 WON, not 2021, but 202 WON, there was an individual who stood at a podium on January the 6th, 2020 WON. I will not call his name on this platform. I would not minimize your platform by calling his name. And therefore, he stood at a microphone and he sent a mass mob of insurgents to the Capitol through his words. He said, go to the Capitol and fight like hell. That's what he said, verbatim. They went to the Capitol based on his words, based on his talk. His talk was not cheap. It was expensive, because lives were lost on that day. Millions of dollars in damage was done on that day. Yes. It was chaos on that day. And it opened my eyes even wider to an America that if America doesn't protect Congress, what makes you think America is going to protect us, especially African Americans and other people of color? And so his talk was not cheap. It was expensive. Yes. When we speak life into our children, it's expensive, because then they can reach their destiny. They can reach their purpose that God has created them to reach. But when we speak negative into their lives, many times they shrink.
Yes.
And as adults, they are still traumatized over what we spoke into them if it's negative. So talk is not cheap. Talk is expensive. And then actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. So actions do speak louder than words, but it's the words that move people to action. Think about that. Actions may speak louder than words, but it's the words that move people to action. Before you did anything when you were in the military, before you took action, you received a command from your commanding officer. It was his or her words that led you to the action. And so when I wrote this book, I wanted to change a lot of the traditionally misheld beliefs that we have as a community, as families, as professionals. So I changed that. Talk is not cheap. Talk is expensive. And we must learn how to communicate effectively. And we must, absolutely. And we must learn that body language is key. And we must learn how to listen, because we have to be more interested and less interesting. And that would help us. And so when I wrote this book, I wrote it with that idea in mind. And in the book, I talk about opposition. Because we're all going to face opposition. But in the word opposition is the word sit. And when I say sit, I mean, when you sit, it's not sitting in a place of retreat. It's sitting in a place where you can release, relax, and restore, where you can just sit and you can release and you can cry and you can get all of that out. And after you cry, then you relax, you pray, you meditate, and then you restore and you build yourself back up. And I want your viewers to know Black men, real men do cry. So don't tell your sons and nephews that real men don't cry, because when we tell Black boys, Black and brown boys, that real men don't cry, we are dehumanizing them. And they're not animals, they're human. And that crying is a human emotion. And so I'm encouraging you to let your boys cry, because they are human. So you see, we sit, but also in the word opposition is the word position. Where will you be positioned? What position will you take? What position will you hold yourself up in? And so inside the word opposition is great, because you can sit and you can be positioned to go from impossible to impossible. So all of that is in the book. Talk is expensive.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to promote the other program, the one where it's impossible. So that's for high school, college students, anybody who needs that, so you have a
plug, right?
I love it. Oh, it's not shame. This is your time. You can promote it.
You know what?
Promote right now.
Yeah, and people say, "Oh, I see you have a book, you have a workbook, you have a teacher's." No. I have a curriculum.
A curriculum,
Not a book. It's a curriculum. Okay, because the book teaches. The book teaches. The workbook helps make certain that you comprehend that which you've been taught. And the facilitator's guide is what the teachers use to lead you in discussions and to lead you into differentiated instruction and to lead you in college and career readiness. And most important today, social emotional learning. When I'm talking to teachers, I let them know, do not start off with academics. Start off with social emotional learning. You have to do a pulse check. Come on now.
Bring my girls. I used to teach cosmetology, but it was so much more than just cosmetology.
Yes.
I teach them emotional maturity, and that was the curriculum. So, are you partnered with any nonprofits or just yours, or are you partnered with any nonprofits?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Curriculum.
We are partnered with the National Lighthouse Foundation, which is out of Atlanta, Georgia, the National Lighthouse Foundation. Also, the South Fulton Arrow Youth Council, where I'm a mentor with the South Fulton Arrow Youth Council, dsfayc.org, youth leadership organization as well. And we tend to partner with those organizations whose missions are closely aligned to our mission. And so we partner with others because we understand that it does take a village. It does take a village. And so we work together, but we're in, just like I said, school districts all over the world, colleges and universities all over the world. And I believe me being labeled special ed was designed. It was designed like that. It was designed like that. Come on, come on now. It was designed like that. Lost a brother to sickle cell anemia, still standing. Lost a sister to the AIDS virus, still standing. My wife and I lost 2 babies, but we have an awesome 25-year-old son. My mother is upstairs right now. We are co-caretakers of my mom, along with my little sister and her husband, my brother, not brother-in-law, my brother in love. You know, the 2 families, we are co-caretakers of our beautiful mother who's battling Alzheimer's disease. You know, lost one of my dads in February, okay, not to COVID, just 88 years old, lost my dad. But guess what? God still is. God is still large and in charge. He's still large and in charge. When I look back over my life at the amount of times I should have been dead, I'm still breathing. I have to do the work. I have to serve him. I have to have the nerve to serve. I must have the nerve to serve. So that's very important that he allows me to walk in my purpose every day. And let me tell you, I love what I do so much that I would do it for free, but I attempt to do it so well that they pay me for it. Do you understand?
I love it.
Hallelujah for that. Yes.
So, Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award winner.
Yeah.
So, when did that come about? Tell us about that.
November of 2016, during the Obama administration.
Congratulations.
I need to put that out there. Yes, I need to put that out there for years of servant leadership, because for over 30 years, this is what I've been doing for over 30 years. I'm a former educator. I've worked with federal TRIO programs like Upward Bound and Talent Search. But for 30 years, yes, this is what I've been doing. So it's for volunteerism, for servant leadership. I've received the Educational Justice Award. I'm just proud, and not so much the awards, but the work.
The work, and you're sharing, and honestly, for people who are afraid to take that first leap into motivational speaking or into the actual gifts, you know, taking that leap, this is the manifestation thereof.
Yes, you know what, Denmika, Denmika, you are amazing. And you know what? You did, and see, there it is right there. You don't know what you just did, because I'm one who tells individuals, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less often. And that's what Donna Satchel, another speaker who I've worked with through the years, she has said that is so powerful. And you just let me know, go ahead, Keith, because they need to see the fruits of your labor as well. But see, I deserved someone like you to say that, to give me permission to do that, as I give permission to others. But that goes back to our historical training. Many times in the African-American community, we could not celebrate ourselves. We could not celebrate ourselves. That was seen as taboo. And that was a part of our enslavement. That was a part of our bondage, that we could never, ever celebrate ourselves. So I'm one who tells individuals today, don't be arrogant, be confident, don't be conceited, but be convinced. And in that one moment, I was explaining why, and you were like, don't explain. All right, because my viewers deserve to hear that. See, and that's what it's about. It's about you being surrounded with people who will remind you of your excellence, who will remind you of your greatness, who will remind you of those things. So my significant sister, I thank you for that on this platform. And for anyone who is thinking about that leap, let me tell you, start with your social media pages. This is what I do. I'm a coach and a trainer. And I tell my clients at the I'm Possible Institute, right? Start with your social media pages, your audience. I don't care if you have 2 followers, you have an audience. And so you should be doing at least 1 to 2 videos a week where you are inspiring. And look, 1 minute. Okay, just 1 minute. Don't go off on a tangent. Just do that 1 minute message. Just give them what I call, on virtual platforms, they call me the virtual vitamin, right? You understand that virtual vitamin? Yeah, giving you some vitamin E, some energy, elevation, empowerment, education. Yep. So I tell my clients, just do that 1 minute. Put that 1 minute on Facebook, that 1 minute on Instagram. You don't know who's going to see that, but that's a part of your speaking. That's getting you ready. That's getting you ready for that training. Write that content. You understand? Speak. You want to be humbled. You want the best training you can get as a prospective speaker. Go to any elementary school.
Definitely.
You go to any elementary school and talk to the elementary kids, because they're going to keep it real.
Yes.
Did you enjoy yourself? No. Okay. They are going to keep it real. I tell any prospective speaker, don't go to the adults. Don't even go to a high school. If you want the truth of where you stand, you go stand before an elementary school audience, whether it's in a socially distanced classroom or in
Yes.
a socially distanced auditorium. You go talk to some elementary school kids, and that will be the barometer of where you stand as a speaker at that time. Absolutely.
Absolutely love that. I had a lady tell me earlier. She said she was outside and she was a teacher at the time with I want to say kindergarten, and the
Yes.
little girl said, "You have spots all over your face," and she thought it was from the sun. She said she
Right.
went in, it was her freckles. And
Wow.
I said, "Little kids
Yes.
are so amazing. I love it."
Yes. 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 So that's the one that they would say needs to be seen and not heard, right? That's the one. But it is so amazing. It's so amazing that he set me up to
Mhm.
walk in my purpose. I really can't imagine doing anything else. I can't imagine doing anything else. I had an opportunity to meet with some families on yesterday and some authorities and the media because we lost one of our young people in the community to senseless
I'm so
gun
sorry.
violence. They were having a water balloon fight at one of the local parks, a water gun fight. They do this all the time, and it escalated. And a young man lost his life. Several others were shot. And when they asked me on the news yesterday, so what do you all have to do? I said, well, the men who I work with, we're going to escalate. We're going to have to escalate our mentorship. That we're
Yes.
just going to have to step it up even more and continue to enrich our children and young people. And so in addition to the Fathers Not Father, I'm a member of the Kings of Kenwood, and that's Kenwood Park right here outside of Metro Atlanta in Fayetteville, Georgia. And we just do informal mentoring. I tell men all the time, you don't have to be in a formal organization. Just go to the park, talk to those young men. Well, they don't listen. Well, go out there with some Gatorade. They gonna listen. Go out there with, you understand? You go out there with some snacks, okay? Because they get hungry and it's summertime. So I'm taking ice cream to the park. I'm taking cases of water and Gatorade and Powerade because one thing about it, I don't care how hardcore you try to be. When you thirsty, it will humble you. And so when those young men come to get a drink of water or Powerade or a Gatorade, that's when we talk to them and we're able to engage them, and we know that we approach them like they're human beings. And that's what you have to do because we were all born human, but it takes effort to be humane. And let me tell you this, those young men, they want structure. Those young women, they want discipline. So the young women that you're empowering, and I'm going to go in and put it out there to all your viewers right now. If you want your young ladies to be empowered, not devoured, you need to call Denmika Eugene because that's what she does. She empowers young women on all levels, and she teaches them that they are promising princesses and they are not female dogs and tricks because a female dog walks on four legs, right? Right. Okay. And a trick is performed by a magician. So we have to train our young ladies up as well. And so I thank you for the great work that you're doing on behalf of young ladies.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So share with us, and you touched on it, but this was leading into my next question, which is a little bit of a heavier topic. So how do you, and I asked my mothers last week this question, how do you have that discussion with our sons and daughters on how to handle police encounters?
Wow. You talking about heavy. The weight of the world is on the Black community right now. It's on the Black community right now. And I'm one that's worked with so many officials in law enforcement. And so this hurts even more. I stood in Mike Brown's blood in Ferguson, Missouri.
Jesus.
April 10th, 2014, when I was opening up for the Kansas City, Missouri School District, Hickman Mills School District. And so I stood in Mike Brown's blood. I wept like a baby because it could have been Keon Brown, my son.
Yeah.
And I've had that conversation with him to the point that recently my son was renting a vehicle. He was on legislative assignment. He was renting a vehicle and he was putting his wallet in the glove compartment. And I kind of hit his hand, like they used to do in church. I hit his hand and I said, no. I need your wallet in plain view. I didn't even want him because I had already pictured him reaching for his wallet. And I would always tell young people, comply, then complain. And that simply meant whatever the officer says, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am. And you complain when you get home. When you get to the adults who can advocate for you, when you get home to your parents or your grandparents or your guardians or whomever you live with, comply. And then now young people are saying to me across the country, well, Mr. Impossible, Philando Castile complied. So many complied and they're still gunned down. They are still slaughtered. What do you do then? And I still have the same message. Comply, then complain, because it increases your odds of living. Mm-hmm. Where else? And what other race has to have that talk?
Yeah.
You as a mother, my wife as a mother, my son goes to work. My wife calls him like 10 times a day just to make sure. Who has to do that? Because typically, you know the rule. Call me when you get to your destination to let me know you made it safely. Call me when you're on your way home, right? But I'm talking about constant conversation, all because call. You don't want to get that call. My son was pulled over by the police in a city that I won't name, okay? But his car was surrounded and it traumatized him. And we just thank God. We thank God that that he did get to his destination safely, and he did nothing illegal. This is the thing.
I've been talking about a lot.
Yeah, you see what I mean?
And they had guns out, and I'm like, I gotta buy it. Like, sir.
Do you understand?
Tags, yes.
So yeah, so this is the reality. And when we look at little Gianna Floyd, right? And when she said, my daddy is going to change the world, there's a gentleman I work with in Lincoln Public Schools in Nebraska named Pete Ferguson. He's a youth coordinator, powerful man of excellence. And one of the things I love what he said, yes, I believe George Floyd is going to change the world. He said, but I'm hoping that the next time we say that, the person who's going to change the world is still breathing. Yes. That we don't want to have to change the world and we are dead. Like you said, we don't want to be a hashtag. Laquan McDonald was running away. He was shot in the back. Antoine Rose running away, shot in the back. Tamir Rice, a child in Cleveland Metro schools where I serve, a little boy. Okay. And the other thing we have to keep in mind is this. We have to categorize our children and young people as such, because many times the authorities will call them men. Okay, they will call them men and they look at them as men. And so then that fear factor kicks in. No, these are little boys and these are young men. These are young men. And so can I say this to your parents? Even if you're in a single parent household, I'm going to implore your mothers, for example, don't tell your little black sons that they're the man of the house now. Don't tell them that they're the man of the house. Allow them to grow. Allow them to be nurtured. Let them know that they don't come from a father. Come on now.
Sons, but I could only imagine that is pressure from a child.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, you let them know they don't come from a father-less home. They just come from a mother-more home. Okay, but look, he's 8 years old. He's not the man of the house. Okay. So we have a lot of work to do in our communities, and we're going to continue to work with our law enforcement agencies. We're going to continue to hold our politicians accountable. I'm a political consultant. I work in the Georgia Senate. We're going to hold our politicians accountable. And let me tell y'all, now is the time you need to register. When it's not election season, you need to register. You need to pay attention because a lot is going on. And guess what? Policy impacts our lives more than anything. Policy.
Definitely. So you guys, and we're going to have to do this again.
Yes.
I always tell people, change your perspective. You change your life.
Yes.
So if we start changing our perspective, I like what you said about a mother-more home, versus a fatherless.
Absolutely.
This man right here, let me go down a list of everything that you do. You do personal development. You help people to clarify their purpose, mindset mastery, conquer your fears, relinquish toxic behaviors, business development, develop business acumen, learn networking and connection strategies, create multiple revenue streams. You help people to learn business growth strategies, leadership development, lead confidently. You help people to communicate effectively, become more efficient. You help people to inspire action. You do speaker training. You get consistent repeat business, or how to get consistent repeat business. You help people to craft their a memorable message, captivate their audience, and learn marketing strategies, and so much more, you guys. This is a powerhouse of knowledge, wealth, but most of all, godly wisdom. Godly wisdom and counsel, you guys. He's a consultant. He consults on so many different levels. I'm so grateful for the setup. I mean, your story is amazing. You know, overcoming all those titles and labels that they tried to put on you and suppress you and oppress you, and you just broke through them. And that was not without a fight.
Amen.
And some things you had to face and you had to fight, and you teach people how to fight with this and this. And I commend you. I thank you for your service. I thank you for all that you are doing. Real quick, what do you want to leave people with?
Wow. I want us to practice more of this. Yes. More compassion. And inside the word compassion is the word passion. Mm-hmm. And passion, I break it down, PASS-I-ON, pass I on. What are you passing on every day? Pass I on. So I want to pass I on hope and love and leadership and nurturing and destiny and purpose. And I want to say to your viewers out there, do not let this pandemic paralyze your purpose or diminish your destiny. Stay masked up, stay prayed up, and never give up. Stay masked up, stay prayed up, never give up. And I'm going to say that. And I mean that. So not only am I an advocate for vaccinations or vaccinating the arm, the body, but vaccinating the mind, vaccinating our spirits. And so I definitely want to leave them that it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. And when you look in that mirror every day, if your name is Denmika, you look in that mirror and you say, Denmika, I can't wait for you to meet the person you're about to become. So whatever your name is, you say, I can't wait for you to meet the person you're about to become, because that means you're ever growing, you're ever changing, you're ever evolving, and surround yourself with positive people. And sometimes they're not in your family. And you're going to learn like I learned, all relatives ain't family. Let me tell you that. If I can leave you with that, all relatives ain't family. Do you mind if I give my social media?
Yes. Go right over there. However they can connect and everything.
Yes. There. Absolutely. Well, you can connect with me on Twitter at Keith L. Brown 1911, Twitter at Keith L. Brown 1911, Facebook, Keith L. Brown, Mr. I Am Possible. Also on Instagram at Keith L. Brown _ We like that, right? Keith L. Brown _ on Instagram. Go ahead and follow. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. You will be inspired on a daily basis. My website is keithlbrown.com, or you can reach me at my publicist, with is Adrienne, ADRIENNE, Adrienne at the IPYagency.com, Adrienne at the IPYagency.com for PR and marketing and bookings, allamericanentertainment.com or allamericanspeakers.com. I want to go ahead and thank you, though, for being the media maven that you are, actress, television personality, all right, just woman of God, woman of purpose, veteran, wife, mother, Renaissance mother, and guess what? So much more so, you will be internationally known, nationally recognized, and locally accepted. Internationally known, nationally recognized, locally accepted. Take that. And viewers, this is your moment. This is your time. This is a new day. Don't look back. Your memory is a replay of your past, but your imagination is a pre-play of your future. Not impossible, I'm possible.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for your time. Thank you. This has been so empowering and encouraging. And I don't take it lightly, your time, because that's something you can't get back. That's the most valuable piece right there. All
Time
right.
well spent.
Time well spent. Empower.
Amen.
Yes. Thank you, guys. I thank you all for tuning in, and you have a blessed night.